Welcome to this live edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight with Jakari Jackson, and as they say, it ain't over till the fat lady in the pantsuit sings. And I
That's the abridged version.
That's right. I think tonight we're going to hear her singing something like, if you remember Young Frankenstein, "Oh, sweet mystery of life, at last I found you." It looks like this is going to be the night that it puts it over for Hillary, but of course it looks like she put one over on everybody earlier today by having the AP announce that she was already the winner.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And of course there's been some people have gone back and uncovered some graphics that have been put out there and say, hey, well, was this a plot or whatever? Look, here's the situation where we come in tonight. We've got Hillary ahead in pledged delegates at 54%, and we're going to be right back in just a moment.
You talk about leveling with the American people. Have you always told the truth?
I've always tried to.
You know, is she in it for us or is she in it for herself?
What difference at this point does it make?
Donald Trump has already sealed the deal for the Republican nomination. But will Bernie's wrecking crew be out in full force to tear the roof off when Clinton's camp steals California?
You know,
Excuse me, I'm talking.
let him run.
Join me and the rest of the InfoWars crew this Tuesday, June 7th at 7 p.m. We're going to be going live to document Hillary's last stand.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far.
So you ask my opinion, I will tell you my opinion. I'm not going to be channeling my husband.
Join us live this Super Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central for the InfoWars Nightly News.
Welcome back to our live coverage of the InfoWars Nightly News presidential primaries. Of course, this is the end of the road, isn't it, Jakari? And as you just saw with that graphic, we've got primary results that are going to be coming in from across the country, from New Jersey all the way to California. And
Yes.
we've got reporters on location, all these areas too, don't we?
Absolutely. We have Joe Biggs out there triggering Bernie supporters in California. Also, Leanne McAdoo is going to have some reports from Hillary Clinton events. We have Richard Reeves in the New York, New Jersey area. He's going to give us the results up there. Also, Kit Daniels is in studio with us. He's over there in Studio B. And of course, we'll have some reports from Rob Dew, Paul Joseph Watson as they document their trip to Bilderberg.
That's right. And we're going to have a press event from Donald Trump that's going to happen at 10 o'clock Central Time. And that's going to be about the time we get the returns in from California. Here are the states that are coming in tonight. First, we're going to have New Jersey, and they've just closed the polls in New Jersey. That has 126 delegates. Next to California, that's the largest number of delegates we've got for the night. And then after that, we're going to have results from New Mexico, South Dakota, and North Dakota. And that's going to be in 1 hour at 8 p.m. The polls will close there. Then we go to Montana, the next time zone, and that's going to be closing at 9 o'clock Central Time. And then California, which will be at 10 o'clock Central. That's when the polls are going to close in California, and that's when we're going to have the Donald Trump press conference. And, of course, there's probably going to be a lot of talk about all the back-and-forth accusations of racism, charges surrounding the what Donald Trump said about the judge being biased against him in the Trump University case. And I think he's got a strong point there. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, tonight with Hillary and Bernie Sanders in California, as I was pointing out in the introduction, where it stands right now, Hillary is at 54% of the pledged delegates or the earned delegates or the delegates that she got from the primaries. Mm-hmm. And then Bernie is at 46%. I think, Jakari, that his only real chance of taking this into a brokered convention, and he's saying that he's not going to get out even after tonight, win or lose. I think his only chance at a brokered convention is if he could somehow get a plurality of the delegates from the voting. Otherwise, Hillary Clinton says, hey, look, I've got 1 million more votes than you do, or 2 million or whatever it is.
Super delegates.
And so, taking the super delegates out, he would have to do more than she had. In other words, the difference would be that the super delegates would be reversing the reported popular vote. I think that's the only chance that he's got, and I don't see that happening. I mean, he's not even winning in the popular vote. He has in the most recent states,
yes,
but he was losing in the early states pretty badly. So right now it stands at 54 to 46% not counting the superdelegates. If you put the superdelegates in, AP tells us earlier today that she won the election because we had, what was it, Puerto Rico? My wife heard that. She says, wait a minute, Puerto Rico is not a state. What are they doing voting in the election? Good question. Good question. Well, they're trying to get bailed out, I think, is what it is.
Well, when you talk about Bernie Sanders and Mrs. Clinton, they've been going at it for a while now. And it's even to the point, you know, we're not Bernie Sanders supporters. At least I know I'm not. I'm sure you're not either. But it's to the point now where they're saying that Bernie should just exit out of the campaign altogether because he's becoming a sexist for merely remaining in the race. And this is what they're teaching the kids now.
Yeah.
You know, because we brought you that article last week about the kid, I believe it was up in Plano, up around the Dallas area. They said you can't wear your National Honor Society banner because it makes the other kids feel bad. Mr. Sanders, you can no longer be in this race because you're hurting the chances of the first woman president, and it's sexist for you to do so.
That's the insanity we've created in this country. And, of course, the person who asked that question was a New York Times reporter.
Yes.
You know, this prestigious paper of record.
And and Mr. Sanders, Bernie Sanders, he was like, are you serious? Is this a real question? And
Is this a serious
yes.
question? He said, yeah. And he goes, so you're saying then that as a male, I can't challenge somebody if there's a female that's running. And I mean, that's the absurd level of stupidity that we've got
on anything. If they would have said back in the last election, Mitt Romney, you're a racist because you continue to run against Barack Obama. I said, that's ridiculous. That's absurd on its face.
Except we have heard people say that you're racist if you criticize Barack Obama. Right? That has been the situation throughout the entire Obama presidency, that he is off limits to question him. It's off limits to question his Muslim upbringing. And we know that he was brought up in Indonesia, which is a Muslim country. He spent a good deal of time in a Muslim school. And even more interesting is the fact that his father worked for, was a high official in that government, which we haven't heard much about in the United States. But you went to that movie, The Act of Killing, right? Which showed these guys confessing to the mass government murders of people, saying, yeah, we found out the best thing we could do is tie a wire over here to this hand railing, put these people here, and then wrap it around their necks and choke them to death or cut their heads off. They were bragging about that.
Yeah.
And that's the criminal regime that the CIA helped to set up there. And, of course, the father who raised him, Sotero, as well, was a part of that regime. And then his mother was a part of the CIA. So is that not a relevant question? But we're not allowed to ask those types of questions because, we have to embrace people who are from outside of America more than we do people who are inside. Well, a similar thing
when you talk about the actions of Bill Clinton. If you bring up all the women in his past, I'm not even talking about Monica, but the other women, you're just anti-Hillary. You just don't want to see a woman be president. You're sexist.
That's right. That's right. And that's the other issue, too. I think Bernie perhaps may be thinking that he needs to stay in this, even if he can't make the case that he got more popular votes than Hillary did. So the superdelegates need to not be the balance of power, not reverse the votes. Even if that doesn't happen, perhaps he thinks that he can stay in case Hillary is indicted. But even if that happens, do you really think that's going to matter? Because, I mean, Bill Clinton was not only indicted for perjury, and it wasn't for infidelity, it wasn't for cheating on his wife. Bill Clinton, a lawyer, a president, was indicted for lying under oath.
Absolutely.
He knew better than that. It had consequences for him as a lawyer, but he was impeached for that as well as indicted. So if the Democrats, and then Democrats didn't have any problem with that. So I don't think they're going to have any problem with Hillary being indicted.
The FBI is only going after Hillary because they're sexist.
That's right. That's right. And we know that for a fact, don't we? Well, there's an interesting story, Jakari, as we're looking at how they're coming after Donald Trump for the racism thing. And, of course, the most devastating shoe has now fallen. We see Jeb Bush calling on Donald Trump to retract his statements because he is obviously racist, and Jeb Bush knows a racist when he sees one.
Oh, not Jeb Bush. not Jeb Bush.
Yeah. And then we've got Paul Ryan, who was so reluctant to throw his hat behind Donald Trump. And let's get this clip up where Paul Ryan talks about Donald Trump as being a textbook racist. Let's play that if we got that ready. Maybe we don't.
I disavow these requirements. I regret those comments that he made. I don't think claiming a person can't do their job because of their race is sort of like the textbook definition of a racist comment. I think that should be absolutely disavowed. It's absolutely unacceptable. But do I believe that Hillary Clinton is the answer? No, I do not. Do I believe that Hillary Clinton is going to be the answer to solving these problems? I do not.
Okay, but when you call him a racist, you can't have it both ways, Paul. You can either You can
Yeah,
either
that's pretty
be
much
with
what it
her, okay, or you can be with him. I mean, it may be a Hobson's choice, but it's the only choice you've got. And his real choice, Jakari, of course, is that he wants open borders. We know that. We've seen that over and over again. He's been at the forefront of introducing legislation, even as a Republican, for open borders. He wants the trade treaties. He is a full-on establishment globalist. And it doesn't matter whether he's an R or a D, okay? He is closer on this vital issue. And, of course, we're going to be having some reports from our reporters. We won't be talking to them live, but we'll have some reports that our reporters have filed from Bilderberg. He is a full-on globalist. And in that respect, he has far more in common with Hillary Clinton than he does with Donald Trump, because this election is truly about nationalism versus globalism. But when he goes in and he says, you're going to question his Mexican heritage here and say that he's biased, it completely misrepresents both what Donald Trump said and what the situation is. And for days we've been saying, what's the matter with everybody? Why can't they identify the fact that this is a La Raza judge, that he identifies and thinks that Hispanics should be empowered? We should have more lawyers who are Hispanic simply because they're Hispanic. He's not there trying to get more lawyers who are white or who are black or who are Indian. He wants more Hispanic judges. And, of course, La Raza means the race. And there was a great flashback that was put up on the Drudge Report talking about when Sotomayor was going through confirmation hearings. And they said, well, unlike Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sandra Day O'Connor, who both said, look, yeah, we're women, but a wise old man and a wise old woman would reach the same decision on cases. It's not a matter of our sex. And yet when Sotomayor was up, she made this famous quote about the wise Latina woman. Remember this? I would hope that a wise Latina woman with the richness of her experiences would more often than not reach a better conclusion than a white male who hasn't lived that life. So it was not only an issue for her, but it was one of the things that made her more qualified than, let's say, a white male. Okay? So how do you have it both ways? Quite frankly, I am sick to death of this double standard. And we know exactly what is behind all these establishment Republicans. So we got Paul Ryan that you just heard there. We got Lindsey Graham, who, by the way, as Rob Dew pointed out earlier today, is going to be at the Bilderberg meeting in Germany, in Dresden, where they're reporting from. And as Rob Dew said, hey, how about the Logan Act, which prohibits that type of thing? These guys are
going over there.
Yeah, exactly. And we got Joe Scarborough saying, the GOP needs to back away from Trump. He says, make him back down on this racist comment that he's made about a man who's born in Indiana. Well, that's not the issue. Being born in Indiana is not the issue. And he's a second generation person who's come in here. And I think, Jakari, that a lot of people who were born, their parents came in from another country, whether it's they're Hispanic or whether they're Muslim or whatever. I think it's the second generation that is trying to establish their own identity apart from being American. And especially if the guy doesn't physically look any different than a white man, he wants to say, I'm not part of that white privilege, because that is such an albatross around your neck in a university situation. So they're desperate to establish a different identity. They want to be a hyphenated American. And so they get more racist than their parents, who understood what they were coming from, and they don't have this idealized version of Mexico.
This issue of white privilege isn't even definitively defined, because when I went out to Albuquerque and I was talking to the people out there, and they was like, we don't like Trump. And then you can like Trump or dislike Trump for whatever reasons you like, but they said, we don't like him because he has white privilege. I was like, well, Bernie's white too. Well, Bernie's different. Bernie's one of us. I'm like,
if technically he's Jewish, and they make a distinction with that as well. So, we had this article from Kurt Nimmo. We're talking about how they idealize their heritage, okay, to try to set up their own ethnic identity, because that is so highly valued in the educational circles that they're going to travel in, and these liberal circles that they're going to travel in. So we had this article from Kurt Nimmo today at INFOWARS.com, Make America Mexico Again, because we've seen those signs.
Yes, I've actually seen those when we go out to Anaheim and Albuquerque.
Don't make it great, just make it Mexico again. Do we really want it to be like Mexico?
Why are people leaving Mexico?
Exactly. Here's why people are leaving Mexico. And Kurt's got this in his article. If America becomes Mexico again, this is what it would look like. The median poverty rate would be 46%. Okay, the poverty rate would be 76%.